Hey, One Broken World Entertainment, and this is the review for episode 1 and episode 2 of the brand new Monarch Legacy of Monsters that's just dropped on Apple TV. If you don't have Apple TV, I'm sure you can find other ways to watch it. I don't have Apple TV. Shh, you didn't hear that from me. And the one thing I will say straight off the bat about this is I've seen people complain that there's not monsters in it, and in particular, there's no Godzilla in it. There is Godzilla in it, and there is monsters in it. Godzilla is seen in the first 2 episodes through flashbacks, because the story takes place in 2015. The main part of the story takes place in 2015, a year after Godzilla emerged in San Francisco. I don't know why people were thinking it was meant to be a full-on Godzilla show. They always mentioned when they were talking about Monarch that the show would feature Godzilla, but he would not be the primary focus of the show. And you should understand that just by the name alone. It's not Godzilla Monarch, it's Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I understand and I can see why people would be disappointed about not having Godzilla completely throughout it. I can completely understand that, but at the same time, you should have known and done a bit of research to see what the show actually was, and heard the people making it, the people from Legendary and whatnot, always saying and making sure people understood that it was not going to be a show focusing on Godzilla. So with that out of the way, and this will be non-spoiler, I won't spoil anything. So with that out of the way, if you're a big fan of the Monster Universe, or if you like it, whatnot, you probably will enjoy this. In saying that, if you're expecting it to be a Godzilla show, like full-on Godzilla, you'll probably be disappointed. It's very much the human story, and in particular, what the connection is between a lot of our characters and Monarch. So the show opens up with a video and a scene with John Goodman. And John Goodman, of course, played William Randa in Skull Island. So he's running and he's saying he's sorry that he took something that he shouldn't have. He hopes that you'll see this message, but at the same time, he hopes you don't, because it means he's dead. He's being chased by something through the woods. And that's where the video ends. But it's not where the scene ends, because we do get more John Goodman at this point. He's running from one of the giant spiders that was on Skull Island. And he runs out to the edge of the island, out to the ocean. And the spider's coming. And he takes out this big pouch and he just launches it into the sea. And he turns around and here comes the spider. And all of a sudden, great big crab, stone crab, comes up out of the ground in front of him and fights the spider, and the two of them have a bit of a battle, and he's trying to get the hell away from them, but he's kind of stuck underneath them, and they fall in the ocean. And we're watching then the pouch that he threw out floating in the ocean. We see the Monarch logo on it, and then it jumps to 2013, I believe it was, and a Japanese fishing trawler pulls up a net full of fish and discovers the pouch. And it kind of gets thrown to the side. They're kind of more focusing on the fish. And that's the last we see of the pouch for a while. So our primary character that we stick with in 2015 is a girl called Kate Randa. That's right. She is the granddaughter of William. Apparently her father has passed away and she goes to Japan to sort out his affairs. And when she gets to his house, apartment, whatever it is, there's another family there. William had another family in secret. Or sorry, not William, Kate's father, whose name I can't remember. And we find her half-brother, Kentaro. And this is where the story kind of molds into the father clearly had secrets. Does he work for Monarch? What is the scenario with him? You know, how did he keep these two families secret from each other? And he was never present. He was always running off. They do a very, very interesting thing with Kate, which we'll come back to. And it's something I really like and appreciate that they did. While we're with them, we flip back in time. Not too far. We go back to the 50s. And we're with Wyatt Russell, who's playing the young version of Lieutenant Lee Shaw, who's the character Kurt Russell will be playing as well, but the older version. But Lee Shaw is with Keiko, who is Kate Randa's grandmother and the wife of William Randa. And William is also with them. And they're in Kazakhstan and they are tracking down high radiation levels. And they find more monsters, eggs. The way the stories work is it flips between the past with Keiko, William and Lee. And then we're back in 2015 with the aftermath of San Francisco, Godzilla's emergence, and Kate and Kentaro. And they meet a character who Kentaro seems to have a relationship with called May, who's a hacker who, when they discover that their father possibly works with Monarch, he has the pouch that William Randa threw into the ocean on Skull Island at the beginning. And they get her to open it up. And when she opens it up, we go to another place and they get a security alert that the file has been opened. You're not quite sure whether this is Monarch or not. You would think it is, but you're not 100% sure. The second episode, we flow into it's the end of the second episode when we get Kurt Russell. He doesn't show up until the end, but we do get a lot of Lee Shaw because it constantly goes back. In the second episode, we go back further. We go back to when Shaw first met Keiko, and then the two of them together meet for the first time William. And they're on a mission to find out what is happening in the Philippines, the high radiation. Lee got into a fight with a couple of officers, so he's put on this security detail to look after Keiko, who's out there to find out these radiation things. They stumble upon William, who's out there investigating ancient myths of this dragon in the area. And Lee eventually gets fed up with them wanting to go off. She dismisses Shaw, so he drives off. Halfway through his drive, he sees these, like an aurora borealis in the sky, which makes him turn around because the radiation detector goes off. He turns around to go back, and Keiko and William find a ship in the middle of the jungle in the Philippines, and it's the USS Layton, I believe he said it was, and it's a ship that went down at Pearl Harbor, not during the bombing, before it, but it vanished. It didn't just say it vanished, and here it is in the Philippines. It also turns out William served aboard the ship. It's also obvious that it was possibly Godzilla that accidentally took the ship down, maybe something else. But a new Titan has made this thing its home as well, and it is this big dragon bat looking thing. The effects, by the way, in this show are great. And then when we get back to the older Shaw, when we finally meet him, he's in what looks like a retirement home. It's actually not. It's actually a place where they seem to be under house arrest by Monarch. It's a Monarch controlled facility. He's got a ankle bracelet on. There's cameras in the bushes and all that type of stuff. That's where the second episode really goes. It goes between Kate getting people from Monarch, a guy named Tim, showing up, trying to take her to get the pouch. They go to Kentaro's house to try and get the pouch. They're desperate to get these files and stuff. So it goes between that and when we first met Shaw and stuff. Whereas the first episode, Shaw, Keiko and William were already on a mission to discover new Titans and whatnot. And we're getting introduced to Kate and Kentaro finding out what was happening. Don't know if John Goodman will show up again in the show. I don't know how he would. The only way you would be able to do it is have it before Skull Island took place. I don't think he will. I'm not sure. The only part that I really don't like about the show is the character of May, who's played by Chrissy Clemens. the woman who played Iris in The Flash. She was terrible in that. She's terrible in this. She's the only downside to the show so far. And she plays one of those typical hackers with attitude on legs. You know, yeah, she doesn't work for me. Everything else about it is pretty decent. Now, the thing with Kate that I really like and really appreciate. She is the woman who was on the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, when Godzilla arrived in San Francisco and walked through it. And let's not forget, he walked through the bridge because the military started firing on him. So she's on a school bus when Godzilla initially arrives, and he walks through the bridge. The section they're on starts to collapse and the driver gets knocked out. The bus is full of kids. She jumps out of the bus telling them, "I'm gonna get you all off, don't worry." As she jumps off, Godzilla's right there getting shot in the face by the military. So she's seeing his big roar, whatnot. And as he walked through the Golden Gate Bridge, a big chunk of the bridge comes up into the air and smashes down beside the bus. And she's calling for people's help. There's all these military looking people. They're actually not. They're Monarch. As it hits beside the bus plunges down into the water. All the kids are still on board the thing. Every single person bar her dies on that bus. And it's all kids. And why that's interesting? Because she suffers from PTSD because of it. And it's something we've never seen with any of the human characters who were meant to have suffered losses and stuff in the San Francisco attack. When she gets to Tokyo, all that she sees is all these big signs about evacuation areas from Godzilla. They're driving in a taxi. The taxi driver doesn't believe San Francisco's real. He's like, "Oh yeah, they did that with CGI. It's all a money-making scheme for the military." Because there's like an overpass and there's just these big, huge missile turrets that are on there for defense systems against Titans. When the alarm goes off for the warning of Godzilla's coming, when they go underground and she starts explaining, that's the majority of where you get the flashbacks of Godzilla is through her, because it's her on the Golden Gate Bridge. Like, she freaks out. She loses it and tries to run out of the underground. When the Monarch people take her in the second episode, they put a hood on her head, and just because they put the hood on her head, she freaks out. She gets all these flashbacks of the bridge. And it's really interesting that they put this on a character like that, this PTSD of the event. When you see the characters in the movies who, "Oh, you know, my son died during the attack and blah blah blah," and they're all fine about it. The fact that not just does she suffer badly from PTSD, but you see it and you see her like losing it, like goes into full panic attacks over it. That was really, really interesting. And I liked that. That worked really well for me. The CGI in it looks fantastic. There's no argument there. Like, it puts Marvel and DC to shame. It's movie quality. Like the Monsterverse movie quality. They've invested in this thing. And it's a good thing they did, because it looks fantastic. The music in it is even great. The music is great. The opening score, the closing score, it's great. All the performances, again, except Chrissy. Is it Chrissy? I'm not sure how you pronounce her name anymore. Clemens. She's the only downside to this thing. She's a one-note performer, unfortunately. And there's a weird type of a relationship between her and Kentaro, which I could do without, but whatever. But there's definitely twists and turns, and Kurt Russell. Wyatt, obviously they said, "We need you to act like your father in this." And by Jesus, does he. Even there's times his voice, if you didn't look at him, you would say, "That's Kurt Russell." Great choice to get him to be the younger version of Shaw. And Kurt Russell is Kurt Russell, let's go, get it. Come on, it's Kurt Russell. He's great anyway. And it was cool to see John Goodman as well. Even though it's brief, it was a cool scene. And kind of expanded a bit on what was happening with him on Skull Island. But there you go. I would Highly recommend it. If you love the Monsterverse, definitely check it out. Um, Again, you should know and be aware that it's not a full on Godzilla show. It is very much a Monarch show. It's about them. But yes, there are Titans in it. So if you're hearing people say there's no monsters in it, I don't know what show they were watching. It's not this. Because there is. So I'd highly recommend it if you're into that stuff. I've really enjoyed the first two episodes. Looking forward now to the rest of it. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.